Read Talk is supported by Read Design. With the power of machine learning, Read Design derives patterns and trends that accurately predict the characteristics of finished reads. Founded by Logan Asterling, Read Design makes quality reads with characteristics you can count on. Save valuable time and get back to what you love, making music. Visit readdesign.io to learn more.
Welcome to Read Talk. I'm Courtney Miller.
And I'm Margaret Marco.
Joining us today to share her read-making insight and expertise is Jamie Roberts, Assistant Principal Oboist of the National Symphony. Welcome, Jamie. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is great.
Well, Jamie, I'd like to start by asking you if you could describe the characteristics of your dream read.
I've had a few. But I think probably a dream read for me would be something that responds really well, but also takes my air really well. So there's a nice something to blow against. Mm-hmm. Also, it resonates really nicely in the top notes, like A, B, and C, but holds together, and also resonates in the lower notes. And also just anything that I feel, character-wise that I want to put in the music, it just comes out. And I don't have to work at all. So I would love one of those always. But
wouldn't we all?
Yeah.
Something we're constantly striving for.
I do know that I think it was John Mack who talked about some of these dream reads. He'd come to Indiana sometimes when I was there, usually in the summers, doing some special master classes, and he would kind of talk about when you had that dream read, you would spend so much time trying to recreate that dream read that you would waste a lot of other reads in the process, because it's very hard to recreate those special, once in a year or 10.
That's a good point. And I've heard other people say, I felt like I was playing on the best read of my life. And, somebody who I really trusted said, well, you sounded pretty much the same as you always do. Or the other way around, you're playing on a read that you're kind of struggling with, and you get the most compliments of your life or something.
Yeah, I think that's something, I think it's more selfish because you feel good on it. But ultimately, you kind of always sound the same if you're, practicing and have all your fundamentals kind of in place.
That is so true. Good point. Good point. Well, do you have any favorite read tests that you like to use to determine whether or not you have a dream read?
Usually those dream reads, they just, appear and everything just works. So those tests, I don't need to test those ones. Yeah. But I don't have a lot of read tests. I usually, I like doing an aspirated test so that I can kind of slowly determine if the read is vibrating from the start, from the tip throughout the read and vibrating together. Mm-hmm. And that's a slow way to kind of, see if the tip integrates with the transition and heart, and then the lows slowly come out in the back. And I also try to make sure after doing the aspirated test that I am blowing or crowing into the reed in a similar way I would be blowing into the oboe. So I'm not doing weird things to make the test work rather than just playing as if I would play in the oboe.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense because ultimately you're going to be playing that read on your oboe.
Yeah. I've definitely had a lot of teachers. I'm fortunate to have had a lot of teachers and a lot of really great read advice, but everyone has their own kind of method. And, throughout the years, I kind of have come up with a combination of everyone's and what works for me. And I do a lot of playing tests. This has been kind of a hard time for me for all this COVID because I don't have as many projects that I'm making my reads for.
Right.
And I realize that I'm very, the read I'm making each week is really for the purpose of that week's repertoire. Mm-hmm. And I really will kind of focus on, whether that's Tchaikovsky violin concerto or different pieces and all the needs for that particular piece.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you made the distinction between a read test and a playing test. So there are tests that we do with the read alone, and then, of course, playing tests on the oboe tell you a little bit more or confirm what you already suspected by doing the read alone test. But then you take it even a little further and say, well, I do these tests that are specifically designed for the demands of the week.
Mm-hmm. My first teacher, Peggy Michael, she was really great because whenever I would tell her that I had no reads and I don't know what to do, I have nothing to play on. And her first bit of advice was, then you need to practice. Oh. And I was like, no, but I have nothing to practice on. And she would be like, just practice and then you'll know. And so that would kind of, it just, once you start playing and kind of get detached from all of the stress at a reed desk, your musical instincts kind of tell you, oh, I just need to, define the tip a little bit more, or, all of that information is inside of you. Mm-hmm. You just kind of, for me at least, it's really important to do the thing that I'm, my purpose is to play the oboe the best it can be played, and by me. And, I just need the tool to make that happen.
Right. And sometimes if you're focused on not having a read, you're focused on that, and then you forget that, there are just some basic fundamentals that maybe I need to make sure that I have in place, and maybe I'll have more reads than I really thought, and I'll actually, find a read that I can practice on. But that's hard when you're young.
Oh, it's hard now still. Yeah. This still happens. I mean, some people, it seems like they have it all together with reads, and I might if it was just like, someone outside and seeing in. But in my own mind, I feel like this is always a struggle. And I'll talk to friends that I've had for, 10 years now, usually not oboe players, and they'll call like before concert, and they'll notice something's a little, off, and they're like, what's the matter? And I was like, I have no reads. I have nothing to play. And they'll always, oh, you'll be fine. I know you have something. And I was like, no, this time I actually don't. And it always works out.
And it always works, of course, of course.
But it's not a new story. It's the same story over and over again. So this just might be my life.
Well, always ask a non-oboe player if they think you need a new read, because your non-oboe playing friends will always say, you sound the same as you always do. You sound great.
Yes. You have reeds all over your desk. What are you talking about? You don't need reeds. You're
yeah. I've heard that. Yeah, no. Yes.
So earlier you alluded to some of your reed-making mentors and your teachers. Can you talk a little bit in more detail about them and the wisdom that you glean from each of them?
Yeah, I mean, I feel so lucky. I've had so many great oboists in my life. From Peggy Michael, who kind of introduced me to some of the basic concepts of selecting cane. I never knew about that process before. And, the concept of gouging. And another great mentor was John Ferrillo, and he was really great at more of the equipment, also the staples that I use and the shape I use, and just kind of producing a sound and really putting air through the instrument was really, I'm very thankful for all of his advice with that. He also really helped with kind of focusing on the crow, making the reed to the crow, and that is still very helpful to me.
Oh, yeah.
And then my other reed mentor is and was Anne Gabriel. And I studied with her when I was in LA. And she was kind of a mentor to, really helping with the audition process and kind of guiding me and forcing me to do lots of mock auditions and just getting me ready for, all of that.
Oh, great.
She kind of combined the ideas of Mr. Frillo's reed making with Linda Stroman's reed making, and she's very methodical, but also kind of talked about air in the same way that Mr. Frillo would. So that was helpful.
It's nice not to get contradictory information from different teachers. We can all balance it out in the end, but it's so nice when there's an affirmation that this is the way to do it.
Yeah, all the principles from all of these mentors were the same. And Peggy Michael was a student of John Max as well. So, between all of them, they really had pretty complementary information, just said in different ways. So it was really great for me to have all angles available.
Yeah.
And then to Linda Stroman at Indiana University. She has, so much knowledge and so many specifics. Yeah. And just, I wish I was a little bit more attentive while I was there, because again, I really was focused on just playing, and when I had something that worked, I just wanted to play. I didn't want to have to break up the practicing and the playing to make reeds again. Oh, one of the best pieces of advice she gave, and I still do it to this day, is always warming up before touching a reed or a knife. That has been probably the best thing for my playing and for reed making. Some colleagues of mine definitely go to the reed desk first. I think some people have gone through really, where their playing feels out of whack. I don't know. For me, it's just helpful to just know where my air goes, to be reminded of that, to be reminded where my support is and how it functions together with the air, and also to just warm up my brain and thinking in the right way.
It can really center you, if you do your warm-up wisely, and then you're more prepared maybe after the warm-up to do the reed work. Do you think that's what she meant when she told you to warm up before?
I think so. I think she also, if you're kind of going in cold to a reed desk, you don't even really know what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's hard to achieve a goal if you don't know what your goal is. So
exactly.
Sometimes if I'm tempted to do that, it's like I have unrealistic expectations for the reeds. But after I'm working, then I see a little more clearly.
Yeah. It's helpful for me to have like a warm-up reed that's very familiar.
Yeah.
Too. So it won't be something that I'd play necessarily in public, but it stays together, responds, is flexible enough to play with a drone where I can really, warm up my ear as well.
That's great. And then maybe that warm-up reed helps you stay on track for consistent reed making. I mean, if that's a reed that you can rely on, then maybe the next reed will have similarities. You'll sort of refine the next reed to be more like your warm-up reed.
Yes, definitely.
Kind of inspiring me to want to do a warm-up this evening. After reed talk, I'm going to play some long tones.
I'm thinking the same thing.
Up here, actually.
I love warm-ups. They're my... I feel like it's my meditation. I know some people say that and I've always wanted to wake up and meditate first, but the beginning of the day, it seems like a really healthy thing to do. And someday maybe I'll do it, but for now I'll just do my warm up, and that kind of serves the same purpose.
Exactly.
It does.